Hello everyone, please. Good morning. How are you all? Good? So this is our session together, me and Antonio. We're going to talk about development workflow. So more in detail, we're going to talk about how we've set up our branches and how we manage our release process and so on, and a little about our teams and so also. So my name is Simon Andersson, and I work at Configura at the headquarters in Linköping. I've been working there for 3-4 years, I like to say, but I guess it's more up to 7-8 years actually. I've been working there since my girl wasn't even thought of when I started working, and she is 7 years old right now. But I like Configura as a company, and I really liked all the years I've been working there, so feel nothing to say. I started working in Hayworth. I worked there the first half year or the first year maybe, but after that I transitioned over to work against kitchen clients in the Scandinavian region in another team, which I've been working since then. So I'm currently project manager for the Nobia corporate group, which is one of the biggest kitchen manufacturer groups in the Scandinavian region. So today I'm going to talk about these topics. I'm going to talk about the industry that my team works against, just to give you some insight into that. I'm going to talk about the clients real quick that we have in our team, and then I'm going to talk about the team composition and the development environment, how we set up our branches, and the release process we are following, and then I may have some extra topics in the end after Antonio's presentation. So, the industry is done. Our team focuses on kitchen clients, so it's kitchen and bath. And bath in this sense isn't like a shower, it's racks and cabinets, furniture in the bathrooms. We also have wardrobe extensions for manufacturers. It's pretty usual by kitchen manufacturers to also manufacture wardrobe. And we also have some white goods extensions that we take care of. So our biggest clients is these three. It's Marbodal, which is a Swedish-based kitchen manufacturer, which have stores in Norway and Sweden, and they have 650 CET licenses, and they are part of the Nobia corporate group. We also have Norema, which is a Norwegian kitchen manufacturer with 300 CET licenses, and then we have Kvik, which is a Danish. They have their headquarters in Denmark and have 750 CET licenses. And they have licenses spread all over the world, even in Thailand and in Greenland maybe, I don't remember. Iceland for sure, I know they have a store. And then we have some smaller also, Electrolux, Siemens. They are not smaller companies, but their extensions is pretty small because we've only done the white goods needed to fuel these three big clients, so to say. So we don't have all white goods that they manufacture for all their markets. So our team consists of 6 consultants sitting in Linköping, but we regularly take help from within the office in Linköping and from Kuala Lumpur office and Grand Rapids office. So it might range from 6 to maybe 12 and 15 developers sometimes if we have bigger projects we are working on. So this is important because we've set up a workflow that enables us to have this range of consultants coming in and out of our projects. So it should be easy for them. So this is the development environment we are using. It's the normal CT developer platforms. It's nothing else with that. I know Antonio may have some else things to show you later on that. So it's operator, and we're using Emacs and we're using Perforce. So I'm not going to talk more about this because I think most of you know it already or don't have any interest in it. So, the release cycle for our custom extensions. As I said, we are working against 3 main clients and some smaller ones, and they have some, they have like different ways that they would like the release cycle to be. Some would like to have weekly releases even, which I don't like really. And some could have like 3-month releases and even maybe 6-month releases. But we've worked with them for a while, and we've come up with having monthly releases for all of our clients. So we don't have to spend so much time building betas and release candidates and so on, so we can focus on developing instead. So we managed to get everyone under the same roof, right, following the same release cycle. And we usually set up that release cycle for a whole year at once. So we set up it for 2018. So we map out all our release candidate builds and all release dates and so on. So they know where to plan their work they want us to do. So this is the normal branch setup that CET core uses. It's version 8.0 and then it's version 8.5 and version 9.0 and so on. So we have created our own branch setup around this to enable these monthly releases. So we created a development branch out from the version 8.0 branch where we submit all our changes. And there we also prefix all submit descriptions into Perforce so we can keep track of all submits that are done. So we have normally, in this case you can see here, we have an issue managed, we have a task number which we then later on can track up, so we can see which change this actually was, what the task was we were working on. And this is very important because we also cherry pick later on. We won't really merge everything over to the release. We may merge parts of the submits that we've done, so it's important to single pick them out. We also have a beta branch, which is just a complete merge from the dev branch actually. So we're not building the betas from the development branch. And the only reason for not building it from the development branch is because we like to be able to build some extra betas in between the normal beta builds that we are doing for the customer. So it may be like we just merge over some single change list and then build a contemporary beta on that. So, and that's this one. We have an RC branch as well, and there is when the cherry picking comes in. So we've created a cherry picking tool that we use. It's pretty simple, but we can import all our issues from the management systems into that. So it could be like 50 issues, maybe several hundred submits. In this case, I've written 150 submits. And then we collect all of them from Perforce, and then we make a single submit of them into the RC branch. So we kind of do that a little automatic. Any questions about this yet? No? Yeah?
Where is cherry picking?
Our cherry picking tool. I think it's placed under custom developer cherry picking, something like that. Maybe I can check that, or you can come back to me if you can't find it. It should be placed there. It's pretty basic, but if you need any information, you can just come to me and I can direct you. And then we merge it back to version 8.0 when we finally release this version to the customers. We felt that keeping version 8.0 equal to the current release is pretty good because core developers and QA and so on can just work in version 8.0 and actually get the same issue that the end customer has on their computer instead of having newer code lying around in version. So, and we also use feature branches sometimes if we have changes that demands extra testing, for example. We don't want to break our automatic test suites that we are using in development branch, for example, and for prototyping and if we have an uncertain release date, for example. And that's just a branch created from dev and then integrated back to development branch. So this is the CT release scheme, which for 8.5 at least, they had a feature freeze 10 weeks before the release, code freeze 6 weeks before, and a release candidate 4 weeks before. And I would like to talk a little about how we set up our release scheme in relation to this release scheme. So we like to do the migration guide as soon as possible after feature freeze from core, and I believe that's very important, just to be able to fetch issues that you may have in your custom extensions, and also to help core at least to give feedback to them. So we try to do the migration guide 1 or 2 weeks after feature freeze, which we did now in 8.5. And I know that in 9.0, I believe that we will do some internal migration first on our extensions, like we might do migration the first week after feature freeze, and then we may give a go to the partners and so on to do it a week after that, just to verify that the migration guide is correct. We also usually do some basic testing after doing the migration. That could be us developers trying out some things that we noted in the migration guide that could give issues, or it could be us asking QA to do those tests around those functionalities, just to be able to catch them as soon as possible and be able to fix them. And at Code Freeze, we start the regular development. We feel that at that phase, its core is stable enough to start doing that. So then we set up our development branch and start the regular development. And the regular betas are starting to be built for our customers and so on. We also start the regular testing and the automatic testing. And automatic testing, I don't know if you're using. Are you using any automatic testing when submits are getting into your system or so? Because there are ways of doing automatic testing, at least in Build Center and so on. You could set up so you can first you just build your extensions like normal and check if there are any compilation errors, and then you could add specific automatic tests there also, so, which we are using. And then 2 weeks before CT release, we normally build our release candidate and we do the regression testing by our QA department. And then we release our extensions at the same date as CT Designer, but only for around 30 to 40 users who release it at exactly the same time as CT Designer release. The other, what is it now, like 1,630 users, they go on a later date, because we would like to fetch bugs from the end users and not affect it to 1,700 users at once. We have 2 other releases also. We have emergency release, which we use sometimes, and that's if you have an issue that affects a large number of users and it can't wait until the next planned release. You just have to fix it and release it as soon as possible. Then we also have first aid, which is an issue that affects a small number of users, or we want to get small scale testing before public release. Have any of you used first aid? Some of you see here, yeah. So I might talk about it a little later, how you manage to release those first aid fixes. But first aid is very good in those cases. Sometimes the support personnel have a few cases of people having problems, and you can create first aid and release it to only those 3 people so they can test it out. You may not know if all other users have the same issue. And it's also good if you want to get some small scale testing before you want to release this in emergency release to every one of your users. So normally we do these kind of releases also with the same branch setup. So we make it in development, we merge it over to RC, build a release candidate there, and then we merge it over to version 8.0. But sometimes we may have code lying around in the RC branch here, which are due to be released in a week or so, and then we have to do it the other way around instead. So then we do it in version 8.0 and merge it backwards. Yes, first aid, publish and install. So first aid, you build the extension as usual if you're going to do a first aid publish, and then you drag the extension over to the first aid section of an official release. So in this case you can see that I've opened the 8.0 release box and Build Central, and there you have a little red first aid box that you can open up, and then you can drag the extension over there. And for the end users to actually fetch these ones into CT to update, they need to manually install it from extension details. So you have to go into the extension details and choose first aid, and then you have to choose first aid once again in that drop down there, and they will show up there. So the current branch setup then, some drawbacks with that I feel is that doing feature branches are tedious. It takes a lot of time and space to do that, because you have to copy all code over when you do a feature branch. So it would be nice if we could have some more lightweight task branches for that. And also features planned for a later release might give merge issues. That's pretty common actually. That when you cherry pick something over from one branch to another branch, you have the code that have been done in the same file or in the same lines, for example, and it gives merge issues there. So I might also have a demo later on here where I will take care of some of these drawbacks and show you how we are starting a new way of working in 8.5 using perforce streams, but that will be after Antonio's presentation. So, do you have any questions around what I just presented for you? Yeah.
I have two questions.
Yes.
How do you handle a release flow with 30 of 1600?
Yeah, right now it's kind of troublesome because we need to manually insert all the email addresses into it. So I believe Core doesn't have, or we doesn't have good functionality for doing that. So I would like that to be added to my configure, of course, to the build central to be able to do partial releases.
Another question was why is the first aid linked to your extension? Why does the user manually have to choose to install it? Couldn't that be automated?
Yeah, but if it's automated, it will just be like a normal release, like an emergency release, I guess. So then it would be different. It wouldn't be any difference. First aid is meant to be for only a couple of people if you're experiencing a problem, and maybe if we want to test it on some certain end users before releasing it publicly to everyone. So that's the reason for having first aid rehearsal. Yeah.
Currently, the build and deploy process involves we have to merge the files. Let's say I just want to merge to the release branch, then I have to increment the version, then I have to compile, which I have to go to build center, compile it, and then upload it. So is there any kind of automation where we can do some scripting? Because the tools engaged here, build central, perforce, it's not very straightforward and there is no documentation also. So is there any vision on that?
I don't know if I heard everything you said. You wanted like more automatic builds, I guess, and publish up to build center?
Yes.
Was that what you meant?
Where the QA team needs a regular build. So they want to work on the build rather than on the dev workspace, for example. And we don't have very much available to automate this that, okay, there's some script working which will automatically do the build and it will upload. And finally, maybe deployment can be done by QA team itself, something like that.
I don't think we are working on something like that right now, but it's a very good opinion. I think we should be looking into that in the future to make it more automatic, the whole process.
And the second very key problem, when a new extension is added in the workspace or the branch, let's say, and we go to build center automatically considers it as in. Let's say I have created a view for the extensions I want to build and upload. That's a very challenging thing to filter out that newly added extension, and sometimes it just gets pushed.
Yeah, I understand what you mean though.
Yeah, it's
it works. When you filter out everything you don't want, maybe you would do the other way around sometimes, say which ones you would like to have, not have those cases you're talking about. Yeah.
On feature request side,
I'm gonna take note of that. Okay, one more there. Hey.
Yeah, I would second the improvement on the automatic builder in Build Central, because tried it in the past and it just wouldn't work for us. Like, I mean, it would shoot off emails to like everyone under the sun, for example, if there was a compilation error. Yeah, maybe some additional controls to set up like how frequently you want it to build instead of building on every change list under the sun. Sometimes it just, you never finish a build because it gets to a change list and it just restarts and never seems to complete. There's a lot of work I think that could be done with it so that it would be usable, and I would love to use it, but it needs work, otherwise it's kind of useless for us.
Yeah, I agree with you completely there, with the reports especially. We also have the problem that it spams us in our email boxes when something goes wrong. So in some cases, if you have automatic testing, for example, maybe you would like to have a report every night coming to your inbox instead of having emails each to submit, for example. So there are a lot of things you could do there. And have you taken this up with anyone from Configura before, doing a feature test or anything like that?
I believe I mentioned it to Gustav before.
Yeah.
We just talked about COVID.
I'll take note of it at least, and I'll talk to Gustav and see what's being done there. I think I need to leave over to you now, so we can keep our schedule. If you have any more questions, then you can just talk to me afterward the presentation or in the future also. Good morning. Yeah, let me kill this one. Whoa. Okay. So my name is Antonio. I work for Allsteel. No, I think I can speak loud enough. I tend to speak fast, so if I do, please throw something at me so I can stop, think, breathe, and start speaking slowly again. I'm the person right now that people beat when things go wrong, so I think I'm able to talk a bit about how we work and how different we do from the rest of probably 100% of you. First, we are office furniture company. We do sitting stuff, desk, tables, panel systems, storage, desking systems, and what we call benching. I'm not sure if this is a common concept in furniture, but we do have different systems that are based on beams. As of now, we have 6, I think, extensions. They are not published in the marketplace, so I think we have users using pretty much all we do, but it's not public in the marketplace. We use, I don't know how to call that, but that where you just give them an exe file and they keep getting updates. And the idea is we have what we call the awesome extension. It's our code base. It should be to some extent what abstract from configure is. Depending on that is what we call our common extension, where everything that's common to everything is, like seating that we use across, everything, connections, some rules and base classes and whatnot. And we have one extension for each set of products, I guess, too. So the idea is, and that's Gustav helped me set up this hierarchy here, is we have the awesome being a free, doesn't require a license. The common one is where we control licenses to give to our users, and all the other extensions depend on the common extension. So if you have that, you're good to access all the others. I don't know if that's a common problem or not, but it took a while for us to figure that out. Now that we know a little bit about what we do, let's talk about processes and tools. That's where we differ from everybody. I want you to imagine like a bunch of developers hidden in a dark room, because that's what happened to us when we started working with CT in December 2015. We had 5 people that never seen CT, all web developers coming from all sorts of backgrounds, none related to 3D or anything like that. We had 1 week of training, and then we we just ran into a room and we stayed there until a couple months ago, and we did everything by ourselves. So you guys are used to using like this setup, like Simon said. I believe everybody uses that. We don't, nothing. We use VS Code. I believe a friend of ours presented here maybe last year, so maybe you guys seen it. We use GitHub and Git, so I have no idea how Perforce works. We don't use it. And I'm gonna talk about the reasons a little bit. So if you guys are interested in the VS Code, it's free. That's how it looks. So it was one less thing for us to learn, because we had to learn CT, another language, another concept. So it was just too much to go and get really bad developers. We had to learn Emacs in a completely different environment. You can download it from the marketplace in VS Code. So you just go search for it. It's free. It's open source. I think there's one person, I don't know, you're probably not here, but there's one person that reached out to us a couple of times asking questions about it. So we have one non-Allsteel person working with it. And you see that it has a 5-star rate there. I gave it because I think it's awesome. So moving forward, as we understand, most people that work with CT, they have like a sort of computer science background. People really into, I don't know, C++ programming and whatnot, but we didn't have access to those people. In fact, we have like a bunch of kids that we got in Brazil that we pay $40 an hour, and we needed to make it simple. So it had to be simple for it to work because we also have like multiple time zones. We have people, 4 cities in the US, 3 in Brazil. Right now, I think our team has 12 or 15 people. So we started with 4 or 5, and we grew to 15. So we tried a bunch of things, and until we could find something that would work. And it's probably the beautiful process like that, and we should also have business analysts and whatnot, except we don't. So it's, I mean, we started in a mess. We had no idea what we're doing, but I guess at some point we figured out, and now we use, like I said, everything is in GitHub. So this is actually what our GitHub, one of the projects should look like. Every extension we have is a different repository inside GitHub. So that's where we keep our requirements. So every time a developer gets a new task, someone is going to write it down. What it should look like to some extent, what should be this person developing, and add a reference to a pricer, and then we start a conversation from there. So everything is associated with an issue in GitHub. Our bugs are also handled inside GitHub. So we try, I don't know if you guys had success with that, but we try to be as specific as possible to let the developers know what's going on. So as much as possible, we include steps, images, videos, and things like that. I don't know, I like GitHub a lot. It's very flexible. You can do pretty much what you want. And also, to some extent, the documentation we have, which is not a lot, we also use GitHub for that. So if we're specing connections, for example, there's things that are a little bit more complicated, we would try and make draws and describe lines and things like that. We also tend to host those things in GitHub. So in terms of code and version control, we use GitHub forks or Git forks. I'm not sure you guys are familiar with that. So the idea is we have a main repo, which is our Altio, and every developer forks it and has their own version of code. So in theory, you wouldn't need a central server because Git doesn't requires you to. You can send pull requests and get code from each other without going through a central server. But we chose to use GitHub, so you can do pretty much in a central or distributed way. And the idea, like I said, is people would fork it and they have their own versions and they can do anything they want on those versions. So some people would branch to make fixes that will allow them to change and share code. So that's a big win, I think, for our work, because if more than one person is working on a task, they can share code very easily because that code doesn't touch the main repository. And once they're done, they're supposed to send us a PR, which is a pull request, and the idea is, okay, will you accept me, main repository? So they submit, I think in the old days of open source, it would work like that, right? You would send a patch to the whatever it was, and someone would review it and hopefully incorporate it. So we try to do that with all of our code. Every change that we do is at least reviewed and developer tested by one of us. So we try to rotate to do this. And once that's done, you got a pull request merged, and that's where that code gets into the main string. And the idea here again is, until recently, we didn't have we still don't have people dedicated to testing. Our users do some of that.
So we had, what? Oh yeah, but you guys are not dedicated, that's what I said. And so we have our users there. And so we do a round of testing, and they help. So the idea is we gotta to try and maintain some sort of standard in terms of code and quality. That's why it's so important to us. So that's our source control workflow. In terms of building, and I'm not sure I know what you guys were talking about the auto builds and whatnot, we found that it's, although not meant to be, CT is very extensible in terms of building tools, because for us to build the VS Code, and we built while we were in training the first week, we figured out that Emacs was talking to the CM file, executable file, and it's just a command line call with some arguments. So that's where we started integrating with VS Code. And Build Center is also talks to the compiler. So if you guys intercept the calls that the .NET tool makes to the compiler, you can pretty much see what the arguments that are being passed, and probably can change it. So we started building a few tools to help us in the build process, like incrementing versions and whatnot. And we're toying with the idea of also making the build outside of Build Center. So far we're using it, but the idea is we would call the compiler and give, if I'm not mistaken, it expects an XML file. So if you make the XML file by hand and just give it to the compiler, it should work. So you really don't need to rely on Build Center or anything whatsoever, except from the CT executable. As to release, we try to, right now we have 3 channels, because like I said, it's not public marketplace yet. So once we're done, we build it, we increment the version, we submit it to my configurer, and we put in a test channel. And by channel, I mean it's not a regular channel, it's just the file that the user is supposed to install. So we do that to make sure that one extension doesn't break the other. Later on, we release to the alpha users, which is a user group made of early adopters that help us trying, and they keep helping us all the time and trying the new things, giving feedback. And once that's good enough, then we release to a greater group that should be our beta users. And at some point we're gonna, I think, add another channel here, and that should be the public marketplace, where it's gonna be available for all of our dealers. So this was the general overview of how we work, and it's completely different. In retrospect, I can say that it's good and bad at the same time, because we didn't have anyone to ask questions. We had no resource, but it forced us to learn a bit about everything and how everything works, since we rely on nothing from the standard tools. And the good side to it is, I think it's easier to get people working with us, because we use a set of tools that are more, let's say, comfortable for most people, as opposed to something that only hardcore developers use, like Emacs. So I guess that's it. If you guys have questions, I don't know if Simon wants to go back and show his thing.
Yeah, do you have any questions? No? Okay.
Okay. So,
I will say thank you, because that kind of workflow we sound with, I'm used to use code. I never know nothing before I'm starting to develop in Emacs and all that. It's just, it sounds old to me. This is
yeah, you can use, yeah, it's painful, right?
Yeah, VS Code and stuff like that.
Are those GitHub repositories are all public, or?
No, our internal code, no, but we do have the awesome should be public.
Okay.
So it's comparable to abstract. Actually, abstract, so the way we see, there's CT, where it's like bare bones, close to the metal, you could say, and you have the abstract office, generic office, or whatever, that is too industry specific. Awesome is somewhere in between, like it's a set of tools that is more industry agnostic. So you don't have to go to the stretch method to the snapper. and you also don't have like, okay, you got stretch for everything. We have an in-between where you can turn it on and off and configure it a little bit. So our developers don't have to really understand how snappers work in the close to the metal. We built a whole framework. It's been 2 years in the work, so there's a lot of work there that people can leverage. It's supposed to be open, so that you can. I think we probably can send in or make it available, right? Later, the links and whatnot. And so yeah.
You said you don't use Vision Flow at all, right? For your
No, never seen it.
do your users contact you to report all issues directly?
So that's her pain. So it gets we get reports in Vision Flow. They parse through it, they prioritize, and then they enter in GitHub for us.
So our users still have the same process.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Reporting through Vision Flow.
Yeah.
Introducing Git, how do you handle upgrades to the core platform?
Oh, maybe once a year I open the CT operator and hit update there. And that's it. Yeah. That's been working so far. Anything else? Nope. Okay, thanks.
Did you have anything extra to talk about?
I can show. Do you want to show your stuff?
I don't know, I couldn't do the before streams really.
Okay, I can. So if you guys are, I'll just go. Okay.
Antonio,
Yes.
one question.
Sure.
Going through all this process, it's been worth it? Or
Oh yeah.
or
Oh yeah, I think so. Yes, because I mean, if you're talking about so Configure, I think they did their own thing, the same thing on their own, right? They kind of went in a different direction than the whole software development market, right? They created their own language, their own tooling. There's nothing you can leverage out there. So there's good things because you can provide very specific tooling for your problems and whatnot. But there's also the other side that you nowadays open source and it's really powerful, right? So there's a lot of value there. So and we can pretty much do anything, use any tools we want. It's really worth it. I mean, let me show you something. So
I work with Conserva. I've been working on CM for a year right now, and if you ask me what's in the base never, I can't tell you because I don't know. I never touch it. So here's the thing: I'm a web developer. I always have been a web developer, so I leave the VS all my whole time. And I like the analogy that what we have is like in the 90s where everyone was building websites and everyone did JavaScript by their own. So everyone had their own set of JavaScript. It was crazy. Everyone had what they had. And then someone came with the idea to create jQuery. And now every website uses jQuery, right? Because you don't have to learn the JavaScript at all. You learn a set of tools that makes it easier. And I think that our awesome is pretty much the idea. You don't have to learn about the awesome furniture, or you don't have to learn about the kitchen. You can use the awesome. They will reach everywhere deep inside CM. And in our scenario, we have people working with us, being productive in a way, constructing geometry and bringing to the screen, and being able to connect stuff and abstraction and really show, get something from the parser, get a geometry from the plates and kind of panels and see, okay, so I have something already in a week. So it was painful at the beginning, but now, of course, we feel really free to reach the market and find anyone, because what happens is that we don't have people that are mathematics or that knows 3D a lot. We pretty much rely on marketing. And if you go to market, you pretty much what you have to do is like brainwash everything again to work CTs.
That's gonna be one of my problems. Like I gotta get the state of mind and get all my projects done. Once I was started learning Emacs and all that stuff, all that new framework.
yeah.
Now with this, I'm ready to kind of jump in because I read that initial step is a lot easier for me.
Yes, yeah. So our developers. So this is our main idea with the awesome thing is make some sort of MVC where you can compose things as opposed to having everything in a snapper. So we have what we call a model, and that's the heart of our thing. So the idea here is, okay, I have the properties. So this is a chair. So that's where I define my domains. So I think we are the only group of people who rely on syntaxes. I'm not sure if you guys saw it. So this is a syntax. You won't see this declaration in any of your code. Also, not this here.
You have autocomplete on the extension?
The same autocomplete that you would have in Emacs, because we talked to that autocompletion for Emacs comes from the compiler as well. Actually, we had a better autocompletion at first because we indexed in Elasticsearch the whole CT base of code, and we created parsers and tokenizers, and we created our own tools for doing autocomplete. So yeah, but I think that as we grew, we don't rely on that much more. So the idea here is, like I said, let's say that you want to change the order in which properties are displayed for a given snapper. We have a method for that. So the categories that that snapper is going to be displayed. Oh, that's really small. Okay, apparently I don't know how to do this. So, okay, let's kill this. So, this is our domains. So we created, for example, let me pull this. So we have our own enum that, so this is what our own, so we call it all enum. So the idea here is, okay, you have the value that you use in code, like I'm using here. So this is a char black metallic. You have a code that I usually use to make the SKU, and you have the label that's going to be presented to the user. So we also don't use catalog creator or anything like that. Our data is described in models here. So like this chair, it has the frame finish, and the domain of possible options are described inside the enum. So we just go add properties here and call .domain, and we get the quick properties populated. So this is the data model of our products, what would be equivalent to what's in catalog creator, except you can program here and override methods, and it doesn't depend, it's not manual, right? Because machines can be programmed. So this is what a geometry looks like for us. 95% of our geometries are drawn within CT. The only ones that are not are the ones that are like chairs, because they're very complex. So we rely on CAD files. So let me get like a pedestal, I don't know, geometry. So, okay, so I have a pedestal geometry. Hopefully this is going to be drawn. So we create a framework that's part of Awesome 2 to make, like, say, storage. So you just create a chassis, add front, back, left, right, top, and it's going to build that storage for you. So people with no 3D notion or knowledge can build things like that. We have, when you're building a geometry, the idea is you create a geometry here, it extends our geometry class, then you get the model through the constructor. So the 2D would be built here, and the 3D would be built in the build 3D, okay, get 3D. So medium 3D. And if you want to do something different for super, you just go and do super. So the idea is we created what CT, you have to hook things in a lot of places. We managed to centralize all those things and simplify the concept. So user has no idea, the developer has no idea what's invalidate looks like, because he doesn't need to call those. We have a life cycle of the object. So things we will call invalidate when they should. So the developer really doesn't have to care if it's gonna be the crazy stuff like try, snap, assign, whatever, connectors, own disconnected, all those hooks, we take care of those. So the good thing about this is you can reuse geometries the way we build. So we have what could be like a controller. The controller class, it has a build method where you can add multiple geometry, and all those parts also. That's the create parts that it gets called later in the snapper. We reflow the call to this class. So let's see another product. That's the idea of reusing geometry is really nice. So panel model, so panel, our base panels. So we have, I don't know, 4 product lines. There are panels. So each part of the 3D is created as a different geometry class. So you can just reuse them and across different products and compose things, as opposed to writing, I don't know how do you guys do it, but as opposed to writing things in Get 3D inside the snapper or loading from the catalog creator. This is code, so it's very reusable and extensible. You can do pretty much anything. So the only thing we need to do now moving forward is document this a little bit, because we see that it's a really game changer in terms of productivity. It took us a year and a half to be able to have like an actual framework that could be used. But now in, I don't know, it's November, right? So 11 months, we pretty much did all of our products, which is, I don't know, maybe close to 2,000-3,000 different products. We were able to create extensions for all of those in less than a year. And we know that some projects take like 3, 4, 5 years to be completed. So it was a huge improvement, I think. Any more questions about this?
Yeah, so who reviews your PRs?
What?
Who reviews PRs? Is it everybody's task, or do you have
Yeah, we kind of roll through. So we have the people that started with us, like like we call, let's say, our core developers is about 4 or 5. And as we bring people in, they understand how it works, and they're more they know better. Then we roll things. So today's here. This week is his job. The other week we're gonna get someone else that can do it. So everybody also knows. They learn 2 things. One, what they should do while developing to make the reviewer's life easier, and that improves a lot. Because once you start reviewing, you're gonna get a lot of crap, and then once you go back to coding, you're not gonna do that anymore, because now you know how it looks like, right? And the other is, okay, we learn about others people code, so it's also a good thing.
How much time do you think it takes out of their schedule in the week to handle
A lot. So this guy's job for the past month, he's been just doing that. So he just reviews PR. So we kind of rotate because of that, because it takes a lot of time. Yeah.
What capabilities does Awesome have when it comes to stretching behaviors?
So if we did, you don't have to do anything. It's there for free. So
everything you can stretch and the domains are addable?
Yes. You don't have to care about it. As long as you have done the geometry in a certain way, like point of origin should be 0, 0, 0, and it grows, let's say, to the positive x.
Yeah.
Then stretch should be okay, because we do everything.
What about advanced snapping behaviors?
Advanced, sorry, what?
Snapping behaviors.
So if you want, you can.
The role of the work surfaces for
You can override. So there's a lot of things that could stay here. The whole one automation we have. So there's a concept that we call automations. The idea is this gets triggered. So you register this in a snapper, let's say. This gets triggered anytime these events happen. So let's see the reason. So something is first dropped in the word, something enters the view, something connects or disconnected. So you get a call to this class with what triggers it, who is the caller, and you also get all the snappers in the group that are connected to it. So with this, what we can do, for example, let's say you stretch a panel high and you need the connector, the post to follow, right? So you stretch it. Once you drop it, the automation is going to be triggered. We can, and this is exactly what it does here, I think. This is for the stacking, the tiles. So what it does is you can run through all the connected snappers and change the height of the post. So in this case here, is to update the panel tiles when you stack a frame on top of a panel frame. So, okay, if the trigger is a connection and the color is a panel model, then get the base panel and update the tile height. That's it. So we have, we got rid of all the, you don't need to know about snappers or anything, CT really. And that was the most important thing, I believe, because when you start working with CT, it's very easy to get overwhelmed by the amount of information you have to know just to start playing. But once you figure that out, it's just okay. It's pretty much like web. There's a request coming in with the data. You can there's the CSS or the HTML render, which is the get 3D and get 2D. So it's not really different than the known model. So that's what we try to leverage. There was another question there. Yeah.
It's a very good question actually.
Okay.
Where is the collaboration model? Like, if let's say anyone wants to depend on this framework.
Yeah.
So when you guys bring in a lot of things like CM sim, vessels, and if we want to leverage those things, where is that collaboration model?
So, okay.
You can take it.
Oh no, I was just going to say in our side is like the code is there, so you can change it to leverage it if you want. And all of our methods are, let's say that you want to depend on you don't want to fork the code and own it, right? Or all of our methods, they are public and they're extendable. So we have no final method. So you could, where we do, let's say that we have the geometry call to get the 3D, you could hook the CM sim if you wanted to. So the code should be extensible to do that. I don't know if that was your question. Anything else? No? Okay, that's it. Thanks.